Hi, I'm Proma,
And I'm Radhika.
and together,
We're Prom Rad.
oh my gosh, we nailed it because only one of us had to do it.
Perfect. That's
We're
what we
learning, y'all. We're trying things. Today, we are really excited to talk about some spring TV that we are obsessed with. It's still, spring is young. We're only in April, but this week, this like 7 day period in April, we had two really strong Netflix releases, season twos. We're going to talk about Running Point and we're going to talk about Beef, two shows we love. Or do we, actually?
Two seasons of season one I loved for sure. And if you are a loyal listener, you know that we were like really hype about these two coming out. We mentioned it in the Q1 faves of just like what we were looking forward to. So super excited to chat about these. But yes, TBD on whether we would love them or not.
I'm nervous. I'm nervous what if this is our first fight?
It might be our first on mic fight.
This is it. We'll go viral for fighting.
Finally, we've been waiting.
All right, so let's start with Beef because that one came out first. It premiered April 16th on Netflix. Season one was famously this battle between two secretly very angry and dissatisfied people, played by Steven Yeun and Ali Wong. Season two, we actually have four leads, which is exciting. So it's Oscar Isaac and Carey Mulligan, starring opposite Charles Melton and Kaylee Spaney, two couples who are kind of embroiled in this country club scene. So Oscar Isaac and Carey Mulligan's characters run the country club. You know, they're very rich, very known in the community, in this kind of like Southern California rich circle. And then Charles Melton and Kaylee Spaney work for them. So Kaylee's the Bev Cart girl. They call it the Bev Cart. On this country club golf course, she's like the person who people call to like get a drink. You get what a bev card is. And then Charles is a trainer. He starts as a trainer and then it gets into more, which we will talk about. I think we won't do like again major spoilers on endings and stuff, but kind of overall arc of the season. And then another person who's like not main cast but is a big part of it, who we'll get into, is Yoon Jung, who plays the chairwoman Park. So she's an investor, I believe, who comes in to fund the country club because there's some financial issues happening, as there often are when, let's say, morally gray rich people have power.
And she's Oscar winner from Minari and just always an incredible actress. And there's actually so many South Korean stars.
Song Kang-ho is also in it from Parasite.
Yes, and he just pops up and he's like having fun, like doesn't have a main part, but is just like thriving in the background. Well, thriving is maybe not the word that to use, but he's having a time in the background. So it's fun because they are still keeping the South Korean spin on it, where like season one was very much talking more explicitly about, you know, Steven Yeun's character is South Korean and his South Korean American identity was a big part of that season. And that identity crisis is not as central to the narrative, but it's still kind of part of it.
Yeah, and we should mention that the show is from creator Lee Sun-jin, who he goes by Sunny, I have learned through interviews and such. And so that's why that's a big part of it, the identity portion of it, the South Korean influence. And Steven Yeun is still an executive producer on season two. Okay, I guess like high level thoughts. I'm nervous because you texted me early on.
Yeah, I think I texted you that I'm not feeling it. And that is how I felt about this. I'm going to just couch this in the fact that season one of Beef was my favorite show of that year that it came out. Like, I absolutely was so moved by it. I thought it was really thoughtful, really interesting. The way that Sunny uses the road rage incident to kind of peel back the layers of all this interiority in these characters. I don't know, I felt like that was really lacking in this season. I didn't get as much of the interiority that I wanted because there's that one scene in season one of Steven Yeun in the church where he just is so overcome by his emotions. And that is an image that has stuck with me. Like, I remember that so distinctly. And I don't feel like we got to that level with any of the characters in terms of really understanding what they're going through and kind of the motivations behind why they're acting this way. So it's like, yeah, I think we got that on a surface level. I was just looking for a little bit deeper with the characters because I know that like that's what drew me to season one. And I think I was unfairly, obviously, comparing it to season one in that way. But I think the bar was set so high and I just didn't feel like it cleared it for me.
I think that's a tough position to be in too, because comparing it to season one is sort of just the tough part here because they are so, so different. Like, obviously, it's an entirely new cast, but then I kind of agree on the interiority aspect because season two, it felt was so much more plot driven. There are still like major incidents in season one, and both seasons are, the thread is really just like there is an inciting incident that causes these people's lives to unravel in ways that they never could have imagined. And looking back, you know, which maybe they are, maybe they're not, but we as a viewer can look back and be like, that's the thing that started it. And then your reaction to that led to this, and then it just all these dominoes falling. So season one, you get to spend more time with Amy and Danny, and in this season, that time is automatically split amongst four people instead of two. I can understand how if you went in expecting maybe a more contained world that it feels different, and like, and sure, why wouldn't you expect that? It's the same show from the same creator with the same title. I think I just let go of that very early. As soon as they cast new people, that was the point in this process when I was kind of like, ugh. Literally, when they were like, it's Oscar Isaac and Carey Mulligan, and I was like, well, whatever. The show is ruined.
At the same time, I'm glad they're not continuing the old story because I think
And
that
I
was
never wanted them to do that either, but I was very much like, just leave it and let it be, which is really not a thing that happens anymore in Hollywood if something is successful. But I think I kind of let myself be disappointed about it being different so early on that I came in and I was like, just open just a blank canvas and being like, all right, we're doing something new, let's see how it happens. And one thing I really liked, which I mean season one has this too, but is the world building. Like I did feel like truly from a few minutes in, I was like, I know exactly what's going on here. I know these power dynamics, I know these characters. And then as they continue to play within that world, it's still kind of a small world because it is just like these club and these players. Once they bring in Chairwoman Park, it expands in such an insane way. But I liked being there. And the ending in many ways was, I think, foreshadowed. I definitely kind of saw pieces of that coming, but watching it fall apart. I'm a sucker for a journey and not a destination.
I guess I assumed that, like, obviously it's not going to be the exact same as season one. I just thought that those specific explorations were kind of the ethos of the show. And then I think I was just jarred that, yeah, it's still exploring the social dynamics and money and class dynamics and those types of things. And that's still very much part of what Sunny is interested in. I think I was just expecting the other parts to be kind of like the DNA of the show, and then I was surprised when that's not what I got. But I do agree on the world building. Like, definitely the country club, immediately you know exactly what's happening there. I am in two minds about expanding it to the way that it did into the South Korean dynamics, and especially when they go there later in the season and it's just like chaos. I don't know that that landed for me, in that it was just too much, and I don't feel like it was like earned. I would have much preferred for it to be a contained thing at the country club, and them. And okay, and I also want to say, in season one it was a road rage incident, right? And in season two, I think we can say,
Yeah, okay, if you haven't seen the first episode and
yeah,
like the first
then
5 minutes of it, really, because
yeah.
it's pretty early, we're going to talk about I was going to say we should anyway talk about the inciting incident at least and then go from
Yeah.
there.
Yeah, because it's not really a spoiler, because again, yeah, it happens very soon. It's in the first episode, and it is just the jumping off point for the whole season. So basically, what happens is Austin and Ashley, the two lower level country club employees,
Charles and Kaylee.
they are tasked with delivering Josh, who is Oscar Isaac's character. He's running the country club. He's left his wallet at the country club, so someone asks them to go deliver it back to them. When they get to his house, they witness this explosive fight between him and his wife, played by Carey Mulligan, Lindsay. They are like throwing things at each other. It's very violent between them. And from the outside looking in, it like looks like he's being very abusive to her. So Ashley videotapes it because, of course, and technology is a huge part of the show, which I do want to talk about.
Josh and Lindsay see Ashley and Austin through the window, and everyone just kind of freezes because
Yeah.
immediately they all
They
know
know.
what's happened and how the dynamic has shifted.
Exactly. And so basically the inciting incident is that one of them has this incriminating video, and how are they going to use that against each other or use it to their advantage? I like didn't love that as an inciting incident. I think it's just that it's more about the relationship dynamics between the two couples that was such a forefronted part of it. And I don't know, I just didn't find the blackmail of it all to be compelling enough for me. And again, I'm like unfairly comparing this to season one, but there was a moment like later in the season when they're at the hospital and Austin has this interaction with a woman at a vending machine, and I was like, this is a more interesting interaction between two people that I would have thought could be like an interesting, like, I think that's more in the vein of what I would have thought the inciting incident was, just based on season one, where it was like literally someone cutting someone off and then they like go crazy.
Oh, I see. So You actually wanted it to be a smaller thing
smaller
so
thing.
that then we can spiral and explode more.
Yeah.
Interesting.
That's
Okay.
yeah, that was then I was like with this it kind of felt like low-hanging fruit. I don't know. I like maybe not low-hanging fruit, but it just didn't feel exciting enough to me, I think.
Interesting. Because I think what it's meant to be is that to Josh and Lindsay, that's like not a big deal. Like it pretty much within minutes, because we don't know their dynamic yet. Pretty much within minutes, we see them like cleaning up the glass together, and they're like back to being a team. Absolutely not a healthy dynamic, but apparently normal for them. And then it's kind of these two teams positioned against each other, and kind of their values about like what works and doesn't work in a relationship and how the tensions caused between the two couples and also within each couple about that throughout the season. But I think the thing with this inciting incident is that, yeah, again, for Josh and Lindsay, they're like, what's the big deal? Ugh, now they're gonna blow it into something that it's not. Whereas for Austin and Ashley, they're like, what we saw was insane. Should we do something about it, irrespective of the blackmail? So I think it's interesting that this inciting incident feels more about perception, I guess, in that sense. Whereas in season one, like, they're pretty openly hostile toward each other in that road rage incident, and like there's no ambiguity between the two drivers about what this is and how they feel about it. And in this case, a lot of that first episode is Josh and Lindsay in particular tiptoeing and trying to figure out what this is and what they're facing off against.
I feel like they know pretty quickly how they're going to use the video against them. Like they're not like they're approaching Austin and Ashley in a way that basically knows that they're going to try to
And I
blackmail
think
something
that's
out of them.
so telling, right? Like they're approaching Austin and Ashley as like, okay, well, what would we do? And Austin and Ashley are
Yeah.
not necessarily there yet. Like the blackmail sort of dawns on them in pieces, whereas
But I feel like they got there so quickly. Like I don't think it took that long.
Josh and Lindsay, I think, panic right away is because they're like, well, we know what we would do is if we had this video, we would exploit it for millions of dollars, and then they give Ashley 45K in healthcare.
Yeah, they're definitely seeing them as like a mirror of themselves, which they might not necessarily be. Okay, so my other big thing was with Ashley. I just found her so irritating, which I know she's supposed to be. I know she's not supposed to be like great. Ojai, I think this is where it's supposed to be, or like somewhere like Santa Barbara, Ojai, like expensive places. And she's making 45K. He is like, I can't even tell if he's making any money at all because all of his training clients keep canceling on him. And they want to make this really big life decision that costs a lot of money. And I was very irritated that she kept pushing for that when she's not in the place to actually make that life choice. And I understand that a lot of it is like she's having this other health issue that is driving that and is making her like feel like time is running out. But I don't know, that whole thing irritated
It's
me because I'm like, you're not being like logical right now. And I know it's a TV show, no one is ever logical on TV shows, but it just like really bothered me because that was like her driving thing for like the back half of the season is like she wants to take that step with him. It was life or death for her, and it felt like the back half of the season was so focused on her getting that without her thinking through the consequences. And then to that end, the end of the season kind of does away with that even being an issue. And I was like, okay, what a clean way to wrap that up, you know? I don't know.
I'm curious how you felt like age-wise, like because I found myself a lot of the time being kind of age-wise between the two couples, and having like generational disagreements with the characters based on that, in both cases, and like also sometimes seeing the point in both cases. Like there, I do feel like this is so much of this like elder millennial couple versus the Gen Z couple, and I just found myself
Yeah.
often in the middle being like, well, you're being naive and like you're being ridiculous.
Yeah. I didn't think about it in that way, but we are squarely between, or maybe not squarely, we're probably closer to the Oscar Isaac, Carey Mulligan
Yeah.
characters. And
Lindsay says she's 38.
I mean, I think for them also class is such a big part of that. And
Yeah. They've also been married for like 15 years, which couldn't be me.
yeah, I do think it was a cool way to kind of frame the conflict. It was the generational divide because the two couples act very, very differently for that. And especially the Gen Z couple, like I mentioned earlier, the technology portion of it, like their whole thing is they're going to use technology against the other couple and they
And
know how to do it
and at times against other people as well.
and against each other.
I
Yeah.
always get so irked when technology in shows is just not how it is in real life. Like the fact that, there's this scene where she has to delete something off her phone and then has to go to recently deleted and delete it from there. And I was like, wow, finally, this has been
I
available to
love
us for years. I've never seen it represented on television.
And I like it's part of the plot too. I thought the technology was done really well because you're seeing them kind of parse through their own thoughts just by like texting and deleting. And that's not like it's not been done before. We've definitely seen that before. But like you said, the recently deleted, and especially Haley Spaney's character uses that against her fiance, or not uses against, she does that to him and knows to backtrack and cover her steps in that way of making sure he doesn't find out. And like you said, we don't see the recently deleted. Even just like Carey Mulligan's character WhatsApping her old flame and then blocking him immediately and then texting someone else.
The amount of times she like blocked and unblocked various men, and it's just so like just so apathetic, like frankly like
Yeah.
dissociated about it was such a great like character beat for her, I thought.
Yeah, I thought they used technology really well to build character, which I don't know that I've seen that before, or at least not done well before.
I was really happy to see Carey Mulligan use her regular accent. Not that she really doesn't, but I don't know, I just missed it, and I was like, wow, what a great little English accent.
I think I read an interview that because there was like a lot of improv in this, she was like, "Please let me just use my accent so that I like to have one less thing to think about."
It's definitely a lot of effort, I'm sure. I do want to talk about Yin Jung a little bit because
Yeah.
so great. She's such a powerful presence on camera, just absolutely magnetic. I honestly didn't think much about the plot bopping over to South Korea the way it did because I was just like obsessed with watching her on screen. In Korean, in English, she's performing so skillfully in both. She interacts well with all of the characters. They're clearly intimidated by her, but everyone wants to impress her, and they all have these different budding relationships with the chairwoman that are very much rooted in this extreme power discrepancy. So I just loved watching her and everything. And also, So Yoon Jung, I'm sure I'm saying that wrong, who plays Eunice, was also just so amazing, I thought, within that. It's not just the switching between languages in a performance, but I think the code switching for her too, and the cultural specificity of like Eunice has an English accent too. So I'm like, your life has taken you in many different places. There's so much backstory baked into just like the first couple sentences that she speaks that are not about herself. And that was a character who I at first was like, are we sure about what we're doing here? Like, is this a little bit silly? Sometimes yes, because there's a lot of dark comedy in the show. But she really, really, I thought, sold all of that to me.
This must have been a leg double, but when he was stretching her, I was like, "Excuse me."
If she has a dance background, maybe. I mean, not that.
Like I'm not. I wouldn't be surprised if it was truly her leg that was literally being bent to her shoulder. Yoon Jin, like you mentioned, she's such a commanding presence on screen, but she's such a small woman, and I think that juxtaposition is really interesting, and they use it really well here. And I agree. Like I think everything she does on the show is great. I just wish that the story around her was more like it. I just felt like the whole thing with her husband was so random.
She talks about him before you see him, and she's like, I married a younger man. And even that, just like little tidbit about her, I felt gave me so much context and backstory and just changed the perception of her.
Yeah, definitely. Like they definitely characterized her in a very specific way. And the stuff with Eunice, like, what did you think about Austin's kind of like, cultural, not awakening, but like curiosity about his Korean side of his life and his family, and kind of using Eunice as the portal through which to get there? And then, like, obviously because he's a man, he like doesn't know how to separate friendship from romantic.
Yeah. I'm so glad you asked though, because I do think it's a symptom and it's not the problem. And a lot of what the tests, for lack of a better word, that I think Ashley and Austin go through this season are indicating or trying to get to the root of the problem, and are pointing at various symptoms. Like I think in episode one, there's a conversation where he's like, "Oh, we didn't actually consider like what I want and what I could get out of this," and he's not even mad necessarily. He's realizing that that's maybe a normal dynamic in their relationship, and it's the beginning of the cracks. And so the same way with Eunice, like I think the cracks are there in the relationship, and that's one of those things where like it might not have been her, it might have been someone else, it might have been some other piece of himself that he wanted to explore, but he is first presented with this woman of Korean descent who is around him, who is attractive, who speaks to parts of him that he hasn't been able to explore with Ashley. And then that just starts to, again, like the cracks just grow into an actual rupture. But yeah, because of the nature of that and how the infatuation of it, I think that that would have been a different woman at a different time under different circumstances. It's just a matter of when and not if.
Yeah, I did like that as a little plot point of him kind of being curious and going down this path that he clearly has not really had access to before. And she, again, being the portal through which to kind of understand a different side of himself. It kind of made me sad that we won't get into the ending, but like, the ending kind of has him retreading steps that he's already taken in a way. He's one of the characters where I don't feel like he ended up growing in a way, and I think that's the point.
And
And
it was handed, growth was handed to him on a
handed to
platter.
him.
I mean, he did, arguably, he grew just not in the direction that you would expect from like
Correct.
knowing him at the
Well,
beginning.
and it was like all signs were pointing in a different direction.
Season one was kind of like, what if, you do the worst things to someone and then you find this thread of connection and humanity? Season two was like, what if corruption is just a virus?
And I do like that as commentary on, the class structure and the money and like capitalism today. Like I'm not mad at that being the ending. I just like as watching it, I was like, God damn it. Like, what are you doing?
Okay, well, should we move on to Running Point? To the
Let's
LA
do it.
Waves? To your city? Wait, we're already there, I guess.
We're just like coming down the coast a little bit into LA and and we're not taking a plane to Anaheim to
I don't really
to go get
know California geography the way I'm realizing.
why would you, honestly? Yeah, it goes San Francisco and then like 2 hours north of LA is Santa Barbara and Ojai and some of those beach
Okay.
towns. And then south of LA is San
And
Diego.
which highway connects them? Because that's what I know. Is the 405, the
I
101,
don't
the
know.
110?
Oh my God, look at you. The 10.
The
I think the
10.
10
Local
also. But
traffic.
I have no idea. I could not tell you. I just put it in my little Google Maps and I drive myself there. Okay, so Running Point season 2. This is from Mindy Kaling and stars Kate Hudson, Brenda Song, Drew Tarver, our boy from the other two, Scott MacArthur, and Chet Hanks is on it. Jay Ellis, our boy. Max Greenfield is a very small role. We've got some friends that just pop up throughout the show, as is common in a comedy. So this is a fictionalized tale of Jeannie Buss, who in real life owns the Lakers, and her family has owned the Lakers for a long time. So basically, the story is about after her father passing away. In Running Point, the Jeannie Buss comp is played by Kate Hudson, and her name is Isla Gordon. So Isla's brother, played by Justin Theroux, is running the team, but is a drug addict and finally is sent to rehab. And so she takes over the team, and no one had high hopes for her, but she, like, low-key has been paying attention all these years of how you actually run a team and what you should actually do. And she surprises everyone by kind of pulling together a winning team, pulling together interesting player dynamics and just like running the operation better than anyone thought that she could.
Succession meets Ted Lasso, but with Kate Hudson. I feel like there's no better description of any show that I've ever come up with.
Yeah, that is so accurate. But yeah, so season 1 ends with Justin Theroux's character coming back, and he's released from rehab, but he promises that he's not going to come for Isla's chair and he just wants to work at the company again. And then obviously in season 2 we pick up and he is not being above board about anything. And so it's again just following the dynamics. Jay Ellis's character was the coach in season 1, but he takes a job in Boston, I believe. The first thing that Isla has to do is find a new coach for the team. That takes her
I
talent
just
to
want to
Anaheim.
begin with a in memoriam of Justin Theroux's scarves in season one because Rehab Cam is constantly wearing bigger and weirder scarves.
He has a couple in season 2 still, but they're not as prominent.
Because also, well, it's not the same because he's also just like much more nefarious in general. So I'm like, whenever I see him scarf or no scarf, I'm like, ugh, he's having the best time. They're all having the best time. Like, you can tell, obviously it's like an actor's job to perform, to do well with their co-stars, and also play up the aspect of like when you're doing your press tours, being like, yeah, this was so fun and we were such a family. You can tell when that's genuinely authentic. I saw this cast at the Paley Center after season one, and I was like, oh, you're genuinely having so much fun and have such a great dynamic, and it really translates on screen. So I hope that they get to just keep going as long as that lasts.
Yeah, I got to go to the season 2 premiere and they did the panel after, and we're just cracking jokes, like to the point where the woman who was moderating it was like, okay, I need to ask a question. The best one was Chet Hanks. I forget what she asked him, but he was just like, people know that I'm a troll and now I get to be paid for it. It was like the funniest thing. Like his delivery was so good. But again, yeah, they just like had bits with each other. Like Drew Tarver, they kept making jokes because he has one nude scene. And so they kept being like, oh, the crowd's not into it. Like you were saying, you could just tell that they have a dynamic with each other and they truly do feel like siblings in the way that they like joke with each other.
They all were giving Scott MacArthur grief about like telling really long-winded stories. I feel like it had nothing to do with anything. Like they started it and then he started telling a story and every single person on the line was like, here he goes.
I feel like they did the same thing. At this one, he wasn't wearing socks, or he wasn't wearing socks that you could see in his shoes, and they would not let it go, and it just snowballed into this bigger joke. It was so funny. And it's again, you could just see how funny they are individually without a script in front of them. I don't know how much improv they do on this show, but I would imagine a decent amount.
A lot of the times, a scene will end on an over the shoulder shot. So it's not on the speaker, over the shoulder shot of the reaction, the person who they're speaking to. And then the line is recorded in its ADR. So I feel like they do different versions of that even in person, different alts, and then somewhere in post production, land on what they actually want the joke to be in the end of the scene and record that.
I haven't noticed that, and now I'm gonna watch it closer
Yeah.
to identify. Okay, so this is a season two I really enjoyed. I had a great time. It's hard for a Mindy Kaling show to miss for me, because her humor is up my alley, and this is actually a show where I don't feel like they're still exploring the character dynamics in season two. I feel like it's set, like they know what's happening, and I liked that the siblings had more time together, so you got to see more of that dynamic and them making fun of each other and whatever siblings do.
I don't know.
I only have one, so it's like a different dynamic, you know? But they're all just like, I feel like we use the word weirdos a lot, but they are, especially the Ness character.
I love Ness's hoodie under a blazer look. I love his little reading glasses that are always like here. He's ready to, it actually makes so much sense that I'm like, he's ready to read. It's bad to keep your reading glasses on if you're not actually reading, but he's keeping them close just in case. And some of them, like the scene where I know it's the middle of the night when they get him in the finale to look at plays for the finals, but he's in his robe and he's just like, there's so much fun.
And when Isla's just like at his house and he's just like, I'm gonna work out in this room.
In terms of interiority and sibling dynamics, season two really stayed in the offices of the Waves. And I did miss that. Like we mentioned Ness's wife, who we actually saw in season one, like she's not there at all. The first half of the season had a bit more of that because Isla's planning for her wedding to Max Greenfield's character. But then by season two, I feel like it was just work, work, work. And yes, in this case on the show, the workplace dynamics are the family dynamics. So you get to cheat in that you're seeing the family interact when you're in the office still. But I was like, yeah, there are other people in their lives. Like Brenda Song's husband was not really in it. Like she's on the phone with him once in the back half of the season. So I did miss that. And maybe that's on purpose. Maybe it's leading up to, again, this question of work-life balance for these people in particular. Certainly it's an issue for Isla's character that comes up. But I like some of that, and I miss seeing that. Like, I like Jackie and his girlfriend, Sophia. They don't get to interact as much, but I loved watching that relationship build in season one, and I just generally felt like it was kind of there in the first five, but then by the second half, I was just missing them.
I had the same thought because we briefly see Justin Theroux's wife, I think.
Not the back half.
And I didn't even remember that we met Nessa's wife because I was like, who are the wives that are married to these characters? So I agree with that. But it is not really a show about that. And the wedding would have been, the time to have those characters show up and have some sort of conversation or arc. I did like Jackie's girlfriend Sophia's storyline this season. She's a dancer at the Waves and she basically puts out a TikTok that documents how much worse the dancers are treated compared to the players. And this was one of the things, I don't know if you watched the Dallas Cowboys cheerleaders docuseries, but it kind of talks about the same exact thing where the Dallas Cowboys cheerleaders, they're playing at the most preeminent NFL team, like the biggest franchise, millions and millions, probably billions of dollars at this point, and they are all getting paid nothing and they all have to work a second job. So I liked that they took this opportunity to showcase it. I still kind of wish that in a utopian world, like they would have been paid like way more, but at least Stella heard them and tried to make some sort of change in that department.
I see it all the time through the professional dancers that I know. Famously, we moved on from this. Diljit did not pay the dancers on his last world tour, where he was selling out like arenas internationally. And a lot of people who were talking about that were kind of weirdly silenced because they are dancers and their career does depend on this and having to work with those people. I am not doing that professionally. Happy to reiterate, that's completely unacceptable. It's insane.
I don't even understand the concept of not paying someone to participate in something.
It's like exposure or whatever. Like you get to perform on this great platform, and like, that's the payment that you receive because there are different kinds of capital. But you're putting in the time and you're putting your body through a lot. That is also a kind of capital, and you should be compensated for it.
And it's a thing that creatives run into a lot, like the number of writers that get roped into things because you're like, oh, it's exposure and you get your byline out there and like you're getting paid nothing. But like
Mhm.
sports will pay you millions. And it's like the dichotomy of that. I'm glad that they explored that and talked about it. And I think it's interesting too having Isla be the one to do it because she's like one of the few female, owners in whatever fictional league. I mean, they don't say that explicitly, but we can infer. I don't know if there's that many female owners in real life that could or would make that change. So,
That leads to one of the many, many great guest stars in this show, which is Octavia Spencer as the lawyer who comes to defend the dancers. And there's just so many here. We have recurring great role from Ken Marino as the toilet king of Los
I love
Angeles.
it.
No better casting. Again, costuming
Billionaire.
just knocked it out of the park. He is so, so funny in that. Ray Romano as Norm, the coach who comes in. There's so many more, probably.
Yeah, Ken Marino is like MVP. I love whenever he pops up, he just makes me so
But Ike
happy.
Barinholtz as the
Oh,
Gordon's weird cousin.
yeah. Tommy Dewey shows up as the poacher. Johnny is the accountant.
She has so few scenes, but you get such a clear idea of who Aruna is because she's just like no nonsense, speaking in facts. She's great. So many great jokes. I mean, I don't want to list them off and do them injustice, but I loved her telling Carrie, I already have gay friends. She's like, no, whatever this is.
Yes. Lisa Rinna pops up, who I'm not a housewife person, but I did watch the most recent season of Traders, and I'm all in on Lisa Rinna. I liked them kind of using LA things like that, where it's like, of course, this guy's gonna be like, let me be on this random reality TV show that films in our house and has no boundaries. And so I really enjoyed that as a subplot. On the Brenda Song aspect, where you were like, oh, she talks to her husband for a second. I was like, how do you just up and move to Toronto? That's so far away. And what's happening with your family? I'm very confused because I'm like, is he still trying to do stand up
Right.
in Austin, Texas, or
And that
wherever
feels
he
like
was
something that would
doing?
be worth exploring, and that on any other show we would, of like, okay, is this marriage stable? Or like, what type of strain is the distance putting on them? Because I'm sure it is, but it's only really explored in as much as like Canada is cold, which Toronto is not that
Yeah,
cold. This drove me insane.
okay, I did have to look this up because you mentioned offline to me about the blue filter that they use. Because you were like, okay, Toronto is not cold all the time. And I was like, okay, but NBA season, I was trying to track like
Yeah.
what time of year it was supposed to be. NBA usually starts in like November, I think.
Like, is this True Detective Night Country? Like,
No, it really once because I hadn't watched it yet when before you told me about that, and then when I watched it, I was like, it is very egregious.
Michael Bluth meme of like, has anyone in this writer's room ever been to Canada? To Toronto specifically, because Canada is, is a wealth of experience, but that was very, sent me.
It was like the blue filter was a bit much, but it is cold, so like that's fine. But more so than like the distance straining the relationship. Like I do think they're writing towards her leaving her husband because of the whole stand-up situation.
2 to 3 lines throwaways
Yeah.
across 10 episodes is not going to be enough. I'm sure they're planting the seeds and maybe they'll explore it more in the third season. I think similar with like Ness and Batuin, but still, a way to do that and to make us invest in even the eventual collapse of those relationships is to show us what is working and not working and just like make it real to us that they currently are in them.
Yeah, like have we even met her
I think in
husband on the
season
show?
one they did season one or I think in season one they had that like that event for her toddler.
Oh, right, right, right. Yeah, so I imagine in season three they'll explore that, and I wonder who they're gonna cast as like her, because there's definitely gonna be another romance for her. So, um,
Is that the transition? A lot of the reason that these other relationships aren't being explored is because that energy is going into Isla and into her relationship with Lev, Max Greenfield's character. They've been in a relationship for 8 years. They're getting married. This is a setup at the top of the season. But if you watch season one, and even if you haven't, you can probably figure out there's like sexual tension with her and with Jay Brown, played by Jay Ellis, the coach who leaves. So that gets explored further. A big thing for me in season one, maybe not a big thing, but like something I couldn't ignore was that I didn't really feel like Jay and Isla had much chemistry, and also that the writing didn't serve and what eventually happened. Like they kiss in the season one finale. Season one, spoilers are fine. Okay, it's been like a year. The tension was there maybe in the first episode because it was like clearly this is gonna be a thing, and then nothing happened for 8 episodes, and then they kissed, and it really did not feel earned to me. And then they do some retconning in season two where she's like, "Oh, this is what when we met and how we met, and we've been in each other's lives for this long because he worked for the Waves." But that it was just such a quick rush little montage thing that I was like, that's not enough time still for me to invest, other than the fact that I'm just generally invested in all of these characters.
Yeah, I agree with you on season one. They didn't really build the chemistry as much. Like they had so few scenes together. It was still one of those like things I think I've just watched so much TV that I was like, oh, they're definitely like something's gonna happen between them.
I think there is a distinction between actual like chemistry, sexual tension, and just like two hot people occupying the same physical space.
Yes, 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 yes. I agree. But it's interesting because I think it is the latter, but I still at the end I was like, yeah, that's correct. You guys should be kissing. Like I'm ready for it, you know? Even though I was like, I wish you had written this a little bit better to earn that moment.
And I think they were counting on that, where they were like, look, they're hot enough that it'll make sense that they would have chemistry with anyone. Kate Hudson, rom-com queen.
Yeah. I did like her little how to lose a 10 guy in 10 minutes. I okay, so on that point though, I think in season 2 I was more in on it even though yeah, the montage was so rushed and definitely trying to patch over like okay, well, they have a history and there's a reason why they
Yeah.
are drawn to each other.
Stakes were higher as well. It's not just like, oh, he's my coworker. Well, and I think he was like married in season one. But like we've seen that a lot of like, okay, this person's in a relationship or married and that's why they can't be together. But we've not seen enough of these two people are now considering a romantic relationship and are working on opposing teams. I mean, we have in like sports movies and stuff like that, and obviously this is the moment of heated rivalry, but that was much more exciting for me. Because at some
Yeah.
point, Isla says like, this is getting complicated, and I was like, girl, please, like this is not, I envy this level of complication, but then it gets more complicated, and I was like, oh, you might have a problem. That's fair.
Yeah, I was here for that. I think it added like the stakes were needed of she's literally distracted by this man and the team is suffering for it. I think that it definitely needed that. But then it also comes back to like she's a workaholic and everything is about the team. And so I wonder season 3 going back to the interiority conversation, is she going to allow herself to like also have a personal life? We shall see.
Just like I love the show. I love inhaling this show. I also kind of wish that it were a week on week release because a lot of those like subplots and B stories and C stories are such classic sitcom, weekly sitcom structure. And that's Mindy Kaling's and Ike Barinholtz, David Stassen, like their bread and butter, like a workplace comedy with those specific beats and structure. I love the 10 episodes I get every year. I wish it were more and constant. Grateful for every minute I spend with the crazy Gordons and the LA Waves. We could have worn
Go
Waves
Waves,
colors.
I
Oh,
guess.
but it's like orange.
Orange,
Netflix, if you want to
universe
send
out
us LA
Isla.
Waves merch, you can. Yeah.
We'll wear it proudly. Okay, so those are two shows that we enjoyed to varying degrees.
Our first fight.
It was civil. I think we handled it well. You made some points, I made some points, you know. But yeah, so if you guys have watched Beef or Running Point seasons 1 or 2,
Yeah.
honestly, we'll talk about them both. Leave a comment,
Ooh.
DM us, text us, call us.
I think most of our listeners have one or both of our phone numbers. So
And we'll be back soon with another episode. In the meantime, share this with someone who
share this with.
I was gonna say who you want to blackmail.
Yeah. No, I think that's good. We've shared it with friends already. Share this with an enemy.
Enemies to lovers, you know,
Everything is
that's what
heated
we're all
rivalry
about.
for those with eyes to see. I've never seen it.
All right, and with you never seen it? What?
Certain critic friends were like, it's fine. They were like, it is what it is, and like people are gagging for it, but
Yeah, I will agree. In the first 2 episodes, I was like, what is the hype about? They're jumping through time so much to the point where I was like, this feels not like a TV show. Jumping through time and then they're just having sex. Jumping
that's what I
through
was
time, having
told. It's
sex.
like every 90 seconds they're having sex again.
Yeah, but then you hit a point where it gets really good, and then
Okay.
the rest of it's like really well done. I would say like episode 3 to 6 are excellent. Episodes 1 and 2 are very much hot and heavy.
I've had an HBO subscription since 2014. I'm not naive, I'm not a prude. I also kind of thought that the
Listen and see
moment
how you
had
feel.
passed. Like, I think it was near the finale, and I was like, all right, well, I'll wait till season two. But that has very much stayed in the zeitgeist, so good for them.
I would have thought the finale is the time to catch up. All right, we'll come back next week and Proma will report on Heated Rivalry. You have homework
I
now,
was getting
sorry.
homework. Find us on Apple, Spotify, YouTube. That's it. Bye, everybody.
Yeah.
I hate tequila.